Raul from the Catch Wrestling Alliance, where we help elevate your grappling and together we keep real wrestling alive. Thank you very much for joining me. Whether you're live on our YouTube channel or our Twitch stream, you can definitely find us there, or basically wherever podcasts are available. So let's go ahead and get through the announcements first. So yeah, we are still in the summer session at UCLA. So if you have any way to, I guess, become affiliated with UCLA, then you can access that gym. So whether it be, if you happen to live with someone who's like, I think like a student at UCLA, show them that you live at the same address, and I guess you can join the gym there. It's called the John Wooden Center. But if not, if you're in the LA area, please feel free to come visit us. Fight Science MMA. That's in the area we call like Mid City. So that's like right in the middle of this enormous city that we live in, Los Angeles. Feel free to come train with us. You can always do like even like private lessons if you want, if you can't make our class time. So just let us know. And if you're not in Los Angeles at all and you're not anywhere near the East Coast with my buddy John Strickland in South Carolina, feel free to join our online CWA Academy. That's through our website, catchwrestlingalliance.com. You can join us there. We also have a really great online community that includes even its own app, so people can share their photos, videos, ask questions. It's really worth it. Like, it really just dramatically increases the value of our academy, because it's not just some random chat room. It's much more active, and it's also like an app on your phone. So whether it be iPhone or Android, doesn't matter. It works, right? So feel free to join that. We also have one-off courses that you can also like, say, if you don't want to become a student, then you can also do any of the one-off courses. Like, we just have a new one that we released a few weeks ago, Pressure Pass Volume 2. That is builds off like our last series, where we showed one way to pass closed guard. Now the volume 2 is a way to pass seated guard, or sometimes people call it open guard. So we show you wrestling principles that you can use to pass guard, and this really works. I whenever I have to go to different cities, I usually find like the jiu-jitsu class. Usually you can do like drop-ins at different jiu-jitsu studios. So regardless of the affiliation and whatnot, all these techniques really work. So I put them together, and you're free to learn some of them, and use them to your advantage, get the advantage over your opponents. So feel free, and also if you want to support us just even more simply, then you can always join our YouTube channel. You'll get a lot of our extra content that's behind the YouTube's paywall. It's really easy. So feel free to help us out there if you can, because we're definitely going to be moving on with a lot of different things. So like, we got our courses going on. We got our YouTube channel that we should be getting back into full swing. And then also even more catch wrestling events, so catch wrestling matches and stuff. So that should be coming up really soon. So any of your support will be basically used for that, right? Just helping grow the sport and have more authentic catch wrestling matches, which basically are the most exciting. It's definitely the most exciting, and basically the more catch wrestling, like authentic catch wrestling we have out there, then we could probably get more authentic catch wrestlers competing. So any of your help will go a long way to do that, to help grow the sport. So it's all really appreciated. All right, so we already have one person on the commenting. Shinhee is in I want to say Australia, but he's not in Australia. He's in Auckland, New Zealand. Thank you very much for watching. Shinhee is really going to be holding it down on the west coast of New Zealand. He has been training in catch wrestling or learning authentic catch wrestling. So if anybody is out in the Auckland area of New Zealand, then definitely go ahead and check him out. I think actually I've been meaning to do this for the longest time, but we'll try to put it on our website, like the people who've been training and their locations, because it's really easy for me to mention John Strickland because he's definitely one of the most authentic and with the longest lineage and who's been coaching and learning for the longest time. But yeah, I really want to give shout outs to people who have who've also been training in catch wrestling, who've also been part of our CWA Academy, like Shinhee, because Shinhee's been there for years now, and he's been really like a big student of grappling. So he's also like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu and stuff. So it's not just like he's not just some random person that's just learning some random like catch wrestling stuff on YouTube and stuff. No, he's actually a really serious student. Um, so I want to give a shout out to Shinhee while he's still on the line or while he's still there, maybe. So also people can kind of know who these people are. So I really gotta put that on my to-do list to like add a page on our website to let people know around the world where they can train. All right. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get to the subject at hand. Uh, Basically, what happened was it Friday night for us. It was probably like Saturday for like New Zealand or Singapore and stuff. So there was a one championship fight night. I think it was in Thailand. And so what happened was there was several fights, and I think we could totally talk about a lot of the other ones because there was a grappling match, a women's grappling match that went the distance. But I want to speak specifically about the Gary Tonon MMA match. He fought against a Russian fighter who was undefeated at that time. He had a very strong The Russian fighter had a very strong wrestling background. And for those of you who don't know Gary Tonon, he's like really one of the United States most famous grapplers. He's kind of like he was like one of Gordon Ryan's like teammates and stuff. So he's won a lot of grappling, jiu-jitsu tournaments and whatnot. And he also transitioned to MMA. He's only lost one fight, and it was actually because he was doing a lot of jiu-jitsu off of his back, and the other person really knew how to defend leg locks, and ended up neutralizing every leg lock attempt from Tonon. So then he was able to then just beat him up. But anyway, so um, in this match between Tonon and the Russian, Gary was able to do actually a technique that we show often in catch wrestling, and then actually even just recently, I believe there was a video that we put out where if someone takes your back, you can dive in for the knee bar, and that's exactly what Gary did, and he was able to secure it, but the Russian wasn't tapping out, and uh, basically Gary just continued cranking it, and ultimately you can, if you're watching if you watch the fight, and you can watch it on, was like, if you're in the United States and Canada, it's like on Amazon Prime Video or whatever. But the Russian guy, he ends up kind of like screaming out, and then he taps out, and so you can kind of see the Gary bends the guy's knee, like hyperextends it, kind of bends it the way it shouldn't go. And afterwards, there was like the post-fight interview, and I have it here. I have the few seconds that explain what I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and show it. Okay, so this is the post-fight interview with Gary Tonon after that match against the Russian, where he bent the guy's knee back.
And keep in mind, I had to break him. I had him in a dead to rights knee bar. He knew it. but I had to break all the way through it before he was willing to give up, you know? So those breaking mechanics are important. Wait a minute, so you're saying you felt the knee break? Absolutely. I mean, there's probably no bones broken, ligaments for sure. But yeah, I felt it tear. That's why he had to tap. Because he was in the same position the whole time. It wasn't until I applied foot over foot breaking mechanics that I was able to get that submission.
So this is exactly what I wanted to talk about, because what I've seen a lot, even in training. So it's like I like I mentioned earlier, if I travel to different cities, I usually try to take the jiu-jitsu class in whatever city I visit. Also I've trained many years at 10th Planet, also training at Daisy Fresh here in Los Angeles. So even in training, like in just sparring, and even was it like open mats and stuff, so you'll get people where you'll have them in a submission hold, and you know that it's like very tight and it's like on the verge of breaking something, and these people don't want to tap, and it's like and I know that there's several reasons that they don't tap. So I would love it if people who are watching can just start like just commenting, because I'm sure you might be that person, or you'll have different reasons. Because like if I'll put out like maybe some things that I've seen, or some things that I've observed, and some of my ideas, but I know that it's not universal. So if anybody else has their own opinion on it, please go ahead and comment. So you get people, even one person. This is the most amazing part, where it's like it's not even a match. You're not even doing a tournament, um, and like one person says, "Oh, you're gonna have to break it." Like so, like before they tap, so like, "I'm not gonna tap. You're gonna have to break it." And this was just in sparring, and in a like can't even remember which gym it was, but you get this attitude where people will just not tap, and like they'll even say, to the point, they'll even say something where uh like it's just a little too extreme, in my opinion. It's like, because if you like the sport so much, it's even, especially since that situation happened in in like a like just training session, in the gym. It wasn't even a tournament. It's like you can tap out. Like I've always viewed the gym time as like a place to experiment. You can try, your different techniques. Say if you learn something new and you want to try to add it to your game or whatever, then this is where you try it out. Because if you're in a match, like if you're in a tournament or whatever, that's usually not the time to try out techniques or new techniques, right? Because you probably don't know them well enough. You haven't had enough experience using them to pull them off, right? So like in the tournament, it's probably not the time to try out new things. In training in the gym is that time. So, but I think sometimes even in the gym, maybe this whole ego thing takes over, and um, you'll get people who, even in the gym, and like how Gary mentioned in his post fight interview, it's like he knows that he's very very experienced, and so that and in Gary's match, it was a professional MMA match, so people aren't gonna want to tap out easily. But how, like Gary said, it's like I know that I had to break his leg, right? Because and it wasn't too bad. You can see the guy bending, you can see his knee bending back. But yeah, it wasn't like some kind of like complete just destruction of the knee joint. But the guy eventually tapped. But that's the thing. It's like it's almost to the point where nowadays it's like, well, you have to kind of really hurt the person before they even think about tapping. And I don't know. I don't think it's the best thing, especially for people who really want to be competing for a long time, or even as a hobbyist or whatever. It's like if you wanted to be training for a long time, if like this is the sport you enjoy doing for your exercise or whatever, it's like you probably want to tap, or tap a little earlier, because yeah, especially if it's in training, then just you learned something. All right. Okay, great. So yeah, keep on commenting. We already got a few coming in. yeah. So in my perspective, I think it's probably more of an ego thing, but you gotta like I would say go ahead and tap a little early. Not necessarily early, but I mean, if they really got you and you feel like you don't quite have a way to escape, you should tap out before they break your arm or break your knee or whatever. Um, and I recognize that sometimes a submission will come on so fast and you don't have a chance to tap out and you could get injured that way. But we're talking about, say, like the match. If you guys saw that match, because you don't necessarily have to have Amazon Prime or whatever, because they like One Championship plastered it all over their social media. So I think it's been shared tons of times. So you can just go to any one of the social media outlets or social media accounts of One Championship. I'm sure you'll see the fight. It just happened a couple days ago. All right, so let's get to some of your comments. So Shinhee in New Zealand. I need to be more top dominant and learn the pin more to call myself a catch wrestler. I'm more of a hybrid, but I am working my way there. But I do a set of catch submissions in my arsenal. So yeah, you gotta start somewhere, right? And at least Shinhee, you're trying to learn like the legit catch wrestling. So it's only gonna you're doing it the right way basically, and it's only gonna help you. And it sounds like you're doing really well even in jiu-jitsu. So keep up the good work. All right, Patrick M. I don't train, but I don't understand the idea of not submitting. In some ways, when a submission is locked and there is not a escape, or if there's no escape, it's like checkmate to me. Tip your hat and tap. Yeah, let's go ahead and show this on the screen. All right, um, so that's the way to think about it, right? I think it's probably this is from someone who doesn't train. I think they're understanding the idea where it's like, you can still like I saw one person said like, your dog is not going to turn away from you if you lose, and it's probably better to not have to take a lot of time off. Um, because like probably that Russian guy, um, he might have to take an extended time off now because if his knee, depending on how much damage it took, he'll have to rehab that, and that will definitely take several weeks to several months. So then if he planned on fighting several times this year, then he can't. So um, because you can always come back from a loss. So even Gary Tonon has lost. The Russian guy was undefeated up until that night, so they still would have probably put him back on a, like they would have put him back into a fight sooner than later, because I'm sure he's gotten a lot of like fans and all that. So um, promotions want to put the person who's like exciting and the person who's like the fan favorite, because they helps them get more views and sell more tickets and all that. So you probably want to protect your joints. Shinhee looked like Gary's opponent kind of earned his leg break by putting elbow shots on Gary's leg. Yeah, actually that's one good thing to bring up, or one good aspect to bring up. The Russian guy, I'm sorry I forgot his name, but he was a very good wrestler, and he was actually he threw a lot of knee strikes when he got Gary down, but Gary was able to get back up to standing. You can still throw knee strikes and all that, but the Russian wasn't necessarily bringing Gary back down. So like when Gary was working his way back up to standing position, the guy wasn't using the wrestling to like keep Gary down and under him. He like focused on maybe throwing more knee strikes. So if Gary kind of got up and the Russian still had kind of a headlock, he would throw knees, but then that allowed several opportunities for Gary to get his way out, or to work his way out. And then ultimately it was like the second round, the guy took Gary's back, but he kind of pushed him into the corner of the ring and just kept pressure on him there instead of taking him down. So that allowed Gary the opportunity to do that move that, even just as a few weeks ago, we have a video out where that happens, where someone takes your back, and especially if they're putting a lot of pressure on you, so that means that they're standing behind you and their legs are close to you, then they're pretty much giving up their leg to you, because you just reach down between your legs, you grab it, and just like that's what Gary Tonon did. They rolled, and you end up in a knee bar position. So that guy, almost like he could have, maybe he should have used some of that wrestling to, the pinning aspect to keep Gary down, because like right at the beginning of the fight, the first round, the guy got on top and was just like punishing him with knee strikes, but didn't quite work on the whole pinning aspect. So then Gary was able to actually hit a switch, kind of where I would probably call it like a sit through, and he was able to get out. All right, next comment. The toe hold, Shinhei. So the toe hold is one sub that comes on very quickly, especially in competition. Yeah. Just like I said, like, yeah, sometimes you don't have the ability to tap, but if you do, it's probably the best idea. Okay, Shinhei. Looked like Gary's opponent kind of earned his leg break by putting his elbow shot on Gary's leg. Yes, yeah, that's exactly what we're kind of talking about now. Yeah, it's like the Russian kind of put his leg in like the easiest position to be like to get taken. He wasn't just cognizant of that whole idea. He could have definitely kept his legs away, still keeping pressure, and then he could have pulled Gary down. That's another common catch wrestling takedown, but it's also a common amateur wrestling takedown, where it's like if you get behind someone, you don't stand up like right behind them. You keep your head by their hip, right, and then you keep your butt away from them. So that means in turn, that means your legs are going to be away from them. So it makes it harder for the person to reach back and grab something, because the only thing they can, like, they really can't grab onto you whatsoever, because like your head is hugging their hip, your arms are tightly around their waist, so they don't have too much that they can really grab onto. Let me see. Shinhei. Hammerlock and toe hold, heel hook is the kind of sub you want to look out for. Yeah, so let's go ahead and put that one up. All right. The hammerlock, toe hold, heel hook is kind of sub you want to look out for. Any leg locks, for the matter, tap early. It's not worth costing your leg. Yeah, so then now the Russian guy will probably have to wait a while. Also, it's still famous. In one championship, the guy who fought Mikey Muzameki, where he was the Mongolian guy that would just not tap, and we haven't seen him since, right? But Mikey's had another match since, and I think they just announced yet another match for Mikey. Mikey competes, or he competes for the same Daisy Fresh, or it's called Pedigo Submission Fighting. He's part of their squad, and his sister just had a match at that event. So they're all Daisy Fresh people too. So that's like a real up and coming school. So yeah, they try to kind of their ideas like of like combining some wrestling with their jiu-jitsu. So I still feel like it's more jiu-jitsu, because they do a lot of gi stuff, but they still try to add a lot of these like takedowns and stuff to their game, even in gi, it seems. So yeah, it's like going back to what we're talking about. We're having people who potentially would tap early or tap properly, then you can still be competing, and then you won't have to recover. We don't have to waste all this time recovering. This is actually one of the things that, like, at 10th Planet, because I was there for several years. the one of the guys who loved leg locks, and they even had him teach a class. One of the brown belts there. He would often talk about, just it's not worth it, to get your ligaments torn up and stuff. So, but even with that, like, he definitely would try to not tap out until you're really about to break something. But I think that's one thing where it's like, maybe if you're a real expert and you kind of know when is the last moment that you can tap, then that's kind of one thing. But because he would still tap, like, when you're really about, like, when you did everything right, he would tap. So I think, he was kind of measuring if there was any wiggle room or not, then he could still maybe try to get out. But if that wasn't there, then he would definitely tap. So I think that's still in the whole mindset where, it's like you're thinking about your longevity and not just like trying to not tap. Let's go ahead and put this one up. This is a good question. So another one from Patrick M. Does the corner ever have the responsibility and maybe preventing their fighter, preserving their fighter a little and try to throw in the towel? I can only see that in between rounds for MMA. Yes. So that can still happen, right? So the corner can throw in the towel in MMA matches, and so that's a total possibility, and that's what happened in was the Hoist Gracie Sakuraba match. That's like the longest match like ever in the history of MMA, because I guess they agreed to do like a no time limit thing, and Hoist was really no match for Sakuraba, like even like stamina, and especially stamina wise. So they threw in the towel for him late. I think it was after the 90-minute mark. So that's still a long match, right? But it's like the Sakuraba was still the most dominant in that match. So yes, I think so. Like, going back to the fight we're kind of talking about, mostly the Russian versus Gary Tonon. Yeah, they could have called that one a little bit early, but then there's this weird kind of thing where it's like, say if the guy didn't tap, and then they threw in the towel, and then the fighter might be complaining, but it's like you kind of have to, if you're the corner, and if the guy didn't tap, and you see the elbow breaking, you probably should throw in the towel. The referee should probably be all over that. But so it was like, this wasn't like so like gruesome where Gary was able to totally just like destroy that limb. Even that Mikey Muzameki match where against the Mongolian, it did, actually sometimes it did look kind of bad, but it wasn't like I think there's this match many years ago. It happens a lot more in arm bars where it's like, I think it was one of the Ronda Rousey matches, right? Didn't she bend some girl's arm back where it went like completely the wrong way and stuff? So that's when the referee will definitely jump in, but potentially the corners should try to protect their fighter. Patrick, it was an amazing match. They did have rounds, but still 90 minutes was crazy. Yeah, and Sakuraba was like playing drums on Hoist and all that. So just overall, he just looked most dominant. Shinhei, good example of leg lock fatality. Mikey Musumeci. Yeah, that was the match I'm talking about. So Gantumor Bayan Duran face palm moment. Yeah, so yeah, that was a match where Mikey, he was up against the Mongolian, and like that guy like just did not tap, but his legs were pretty mangled, but he was able to stand up after, right? So Patrick, the ref jumped in with Sakuraba versus Henzo when it dislocated. Then a little more controversial with Sakuraba and Hoyler, though not sure how Hoyler thought he was getting out of that sub. Yeah. So that was that. So that's always like sometimes the problem where it can be controversial, and then the ending can be controversial. So I think that's why like the ref and the corners will probably want to leave it up to the fighter themselves to tap out. So then I think it kind of goes back to the whole idea where it's like, well, you should think about your longevity. So since ultimately, like, no one wants to be responsible for the controversy or controversial stoppage. So, you want to, think about it because, sun's still going to come out tomorrow. And, even if you lose and, your family's still gonna like you or love you or whatever. Your pet's still gonna love you. They're still gonna be dependent on you to feed them. So it's not too bad to lose every once in a while. Winning is fantastic and all that, but just if they you don't really want to risk too much time off just having to rehab. That sucks. Shinhei, yes, Ronda Rousey versus Misha Tate. So that was one of the ones where just Misha's arm just got bent back the wrong way, and it just looked so nasty. So um, you might want to tap before that, right? Yeah, so let's go and show so for those who kind of came in a little bit later, let's go and show what I'm talking about. So this isn't the match, but this is the post-fight interview with Gary Tonon. It's just a few seconds long, so let's go ahead and play it.
And keep in mind, I had to break him. I had him in a dead to rights knee bar. He knew it, but I had to break all the way through it before he was willing to give up, So those breaking mechanics are important. Wait a minute, so you're saying you felt the knee break? Absolutely. I mean, there's probably no bones broken, ligaments for sure. But yeah, I felt it tear. That's why he had to tap. Because he was in the same position the whole time. It wasn't until I applied foot over foot breaking mechanics that I was able to get that submission. So.
Yeah, so he's saying what's kind of becoming really common nowadays, where it's like you kind of really got to hurt someone, which I think is in a way unfortunate. But I guess it's like I feel like it's kind of an ego thing. Go ahead and give me your thoughts about it. You probably want to think about longevity more than recovery, right? So, okay, Shinhei. Renzo still to this day thinks Sakuraba is a BJJ guy. Hell no, he is not. Give credit where it's due. Let's go and put that one on the screen. Yeah, that was the thing. It's like I think there was some kind of interview with Henzo, and he was saying something along the lines of that, where it's like, oh, his jiu-jitsu is so good and all that, and like, but it's like, no, Sakuraba did a lot of course, like the catch wrestling and stuff. He also did a lot of freestyle, I believe. So he wasn't like a complete beginner when he trained with Roy Wood and Billy Robinson and stuff. So because then that actually kind of brings up the idea where it's like there's a lot of people like, so say like in jiu-jitsu, going back to Shinhei's idea where it's like give credit where it's due. A lot of people don't give credit where it's due, but also too there's oh darn, I kind of forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, try to give credit where it's due. Let's get to the next comment. Oh, actually, I remembered what I was saying. Because so then in wrestling, you get a lot of people like in the wrestling history chat rooms where they think like every match in history is we call a work, right? It's like it was predetermined, and so there's no legit match. Like even back in the heyday of catch wrestling and whatnot. So you get these two extremes where it's like you get people now where you'll see people not tapping and then just getting their limbs destroyed. And then you go the opposite where it's like some people are thinking that everything is fake. So I don't think that every big match in history was fake. So, there's you get this wide variety. So you get all these people with different reasons as to like why something did or didn't happen during a match. And sometimes they make it into this big conspiracy, but um, I think nowadays in particular, you'll get some. Actually, it has been discovered. It wasn't in UFC. There was like some guy they had to kick out because he was a fighter and then he became a coach of some people, and they were I guess like betting for themselves or against themselves, and they were actually kind of throwing some matches in UFC. And then that guy got like banned, and all his fighters and stuff were banned. This was the past few years. I forgot the name of the guy though. So yeah, some things are fake. Let me see. Where's the next comment? Oh, Patrick, I do find that there is a long time where some BJJ people just think everything subwise is BJJ. Yeah, I think so too. Um, so they think like jujitsu like started everything, and a lot of these holds um, were considered wrestling holds. So like that's why you're not gonna see any talk in like these old books about submission holds so much. You'll see a lot of things called locks, or like say like double wrist lock and all that, but they were considered like wrestling holds where you could control someone. People were scared of like Frank Gotch's toe hold, so they're called holds or locks and stuff. They weren't necessarily considered, or they were I guess they weren't using that terminology at the time, submission and stuff. So I think some people get confused by that, and they think there was actually no submissions whatsoever in catch wrestling, but these were wrestling holds. Oh yeah, Patrick again says, or it's big guy moves, right? When you see a big guy like Josh Barnett, using his size, to submit people. Yeah, you get this idea where, or it can give this idea where it's like you got to be some big guy to beat up small people or whatever, and then that kind of also helps jiu-jitsu, where they try to promote themselves as being like the sport for the little person going up against the big wrestler and or the big guy, and you can fight from the bottom and whatnot. And so um that's you're right in that you get these weird kinds of thinking, but really, yeah, you can do very very well as a small person, using wrestling principles to even beat bigger people. So it's not all jujitsu, because like a lot of like some of the best American wrestlers weren't the biggest guys, and then also going back to the Lancashire region, right? So the Lancashire catch wrestling back in England, a lot of those guys weren't the biggest guys. So a lot of them were kind of middle height, or like I think they're considered more like 5'6" in height. So that's definitely not 6 feet, right? Um, they weren't like these huge Hulk type people, um, and so like that these aren't big guy moves, right? Even look at even Frank Gotch wasn't the biggest of men, and also Farmer Burns and stuff. Just looking at these pictures, they were slender guys and all that. So they weren't like these big hulks that can just use their size and strength against people. It was actually using technique. Okay, Shinhei. I had to study it myself. I found catch wrestling from finding the history of behind the kimura, or the double wrist lock, which I found was a double wrist lock. And catch wrestler does it far better than BJJ, breaking arm in 3 places. Yeah, so like I said, like Shinhei should know, right? Because he's a purple belt in Auckland, Australia, and I think you even help teach, right? Um, like so you'll help teach at the jiu-jitsu school that you go train at, um, and so knowing the way the double wrist lock is taught in jiu-jitsu, Shinhei found that it's just like using the catch wrestling or the wrestling perspective or the wrestling kind of principles, you can make that hold much more into like a devastating submission hold. I just know you can also use it as a way to control somebody. So, um, just you can throw someone around with it, or keep them pinned down, or put them onto their back, and all that. So it's very versatile. So there's more to these holds than just the whole idea of the submission. So yeah, I'm glad you discovered that shit here. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah, people are, you know, they're forcing you to, really almost break their arm. Um, but hopefully people will kind of chill out about that, or maybe become a little bit better sports, I guess. If it's like an ego thing, if they can chill out and just know that, like, say, like around Southern California, there's like jiu-jitsu competitions like all the time, like I think almost every weekend. So if you don't win today, you can go to the next one next weekend, right? So there's so many things go into like winning a jiu-jitsu tournament. Actually, the coach at Daisy Fresh, I think he had a pretty good outlook on it. The other day, he said something like, "Just the tournament is like just um, how you are that day." So just think of it as the litmus test of like how you're doing. Like, did you get enough rest, or did you train well enough? Like, are you taking care of the more well-rounded aspect of your health and whatnot? So, you know, uh, Alexander. So this is a good comment here. Let's go ahead and put that up on the screen. Alexander, when should you let go? So this is kind of turning it onto the person, right? So in the match we're talking about, Gary Tonon versus the Russian guy. Sorry, I forgot his name, but um, so you so in the post fight interview, Gary's like, I had to break his leg, right? And in a way, it's like kind of true in that, say, like if Gary didn't like pretty much break his leg, the ref wouldn't stop it, the guy wouldn't have tapped, and he would have still had to keep fighting. And like we saw, like in a recent match, was it Gordon Ryan versus Nikki Rodriguez, when Nikki like obviously hurt Gordon's foot. Gordon just continued, and like was still able to get a win. So as the competitor applying the submission hold, you got to think also. So it's like it's becoming like this whole idea where it's like almost like encouraged to break someone's joint. So and then as the competitor, you got to know that if everyone's thinking this way, where it's like the ref doesn't want to stop it and your corner doesn't want to throw in the towel, the other person's probably not gonna stop until they have to. Then you might want to think about tapping before you get something broken, right? So yeah, that was a good idea. Where it's like, say, if you want to be kind, like that was a good question from Alexander Salazar. You can think about like, well, if you want that person to get hurt or not. So I would say like in training and stuff, if it's really locked in, then yeah, let it go and you can keep rolling. Um, but yeah, in a match, yeah, you'd probably want to hold on to it until they stop you, right? Or until the person taps. Shinhee, BJJ people have this strange mentality that BJJ is the only grappling art that is effective. It's a very closed mindset. Yeah, seems to be the case for many people. Shinhee, there is reason why you don't see Americana pulled off in the highest level of comp, because it's easy to defend as the top double wrist lock. Once you put it in, then there's no way out for your wrist will break. Um, yeah. Because we actually did a very old video about this, where it's like was it John Danaher said that, where it's like, oh, you don't see Americana, or in catch wrestling, we often call it the top wrist lock. You don't see that in top competition, but when you see it applied, when they're doing it, I get Danaher saying like, "Oh, should." Danaher said in a post, and this is like years ago now. You can go look it up, but it'll probably be hard to find. But he said a few things where it was like, you don't see it in top competition because maybe like it's because it is easy to get out of, and then maybe we should not teach it to anybody, even though it's like a technique that's taught in the white belt level of jiu-jitsu. But then we did a response video where it's like, yeah, if you use wrestling principles, you can get that submission, and we've seen it several times in professional MMA and all that. So where I think in MMA, because there is a heavier emphasis on learning wrestling, so I think maybe they would have, maybe they were applying a little bit more of the whole idea of the pinning principle when they were going for it. So you are seeing it. So ultimately, I think like he was just wrong about that. But yeah, if you know the pinning principle, you can totally submit people with double top wrist locks or Americanas. Barry, do you know many effective leg locks that can be applied without having to fall back? I think Neil Melanson illustrated them in one of his DVDs. Well, yes, you can, if you're, say, like a lot of the Achilles ones, like if you do a takedown, you can kind of go for it. If you say, like, if you throw them down, you stay standing, you can go for it standing. You can kick over, you can do like with like a half crab, or, these kinds of locks where you don't necessarily have to fall back for it, because yeah, if you don't have everything locked up really tight and you're not really pushing them forward with your legs or your feet, then they can come up and stack you, and they can fight back. So yeah, maybe that can be something that we talk about in an upcoming YouTube video. Maybe we can kind of show maybe one or two of these kinds of leg locks where you don't have to fall back. A lot of that stuff we consider it like what step over toe holds stuff. It would be like in that category for catch wrestling. So catch wrestling doesn't necessarily have they're not like Japanese things where it's like every little thing has a name, but we'll have like categories, and everything will be variations of that. So a lot of step over toe holds you can do without falling back. So hopefully that answered your question, Barry. All right. So I guess that feel free to keep offering your opinions. I think that fight kind of gave you a lot to think about. At least I wanted to kind of share that with you guys, so you can kind of think about your longevity and stuff in your sport. Like might be better to tap if they got it in real deep, and before you start feeling your tendons rip and whatnot. Um, so think about it. Feel free to comment. But I think maybe it'll be good to end it here. So feel free to join our channel or our academy or anything. Our goal here is to not only keep real wrestling alive, but also to elevate your grappling. So let's all work together and create something really good. All right. See you next time.